千里之行，始于足下。A journey of 1,000 miles begins beneath the feet. We now gather in the Tao to travel the journey together. Welcome to Tao Talks with Derek Lin, where we take a deep dive into the Tao Te Ching by Lao Tzu. As always, I want to extend my welcome to you. Thank you for joining us. I would like to invite you to center your thoughts and direct your attention to this moment in time, to the here and now, to be fully present and mindfully aware as we are ready ourselves for this sacred process in the Tao with one another. Once upon a time, in ancient China, Emperor Yao ruled the land. He did his best to follow the Tao in his governance. But the problem was he wasn't quite sure how well he had done his work. He asked the ministers around him, "What do you think? What is the state of the empire? Are the people supportive of me as the ruler or not?" He wanted to know, but he could never get a definitive answer. The ministers wanted to be accurate, gave him complex answers. So he sent a few trusted envoys out among the people to find out. They came back with their reports and observations, but they still were not able to give him the certainty that he wanted. So finally, he decided, I just have to see for myself. He decided to dress in plain clothes, hide his identity, to travel outside the palace incognito. And he ordered his men to not follow him, because if they did, it would draw too much attention. So he's out wandering by himself, and his random wandering took him to a major street. There, he saw children playing and singing. He stopped to listen, and he heard the lyrics. Heaven blesses us with everything. We got no worries or any flaws. We do not know much of anything. We just follow the emperor's laws. This song was a pleasant surprise to the emperor. He felt the lyrics made sense, just the sort of thing he was hoping to hear. He walked over to speak with the children. Hey, your song is very good. Who taught it to you? The children told him they learned it from an official who lived nearby. The emperor wanted to know more about the song, so he asked the children how to find this official. Then he followed the directions they gave him, started walking. So on his way, he passed by a crowd gathering around an old man. Curious, he stopped to see what was happening. People seemed to be engaged in a lively discussion. One man was saying, "The world today is peaceful. Look around you. Everybody has work to keep busy, and nobody has any worries." He pointed at the old man. Even this 80-year-old fellow is enjoying life like the rest of us. It is all thanks to the great kindness of our emperor. Immediately, the old man disagreed in a loud voice. He said, "What kindness from the emperor? What greatness are you talking about? Listen, I have a song for you." The old man started singing the following. On sunrise, our daily work is started. On sunset, our daily work is complete. We dig wells, so we have water to drink. We plow fields, so we have something to eat. What has the emperor done to help us? This was rather deflating to Emperor Yao, rather discouraging. Initially, he was glad to hear the first man praise his kindness. He took it as a sign that the people were supportive of him. But then, immediately, the old man questioned what he, as the emperor, had really done for everyone's livelihood. Perhaps this meant his rule was not widely regarded as a positive thing. His good mood disappeared, and he decided to move on. So he found the official who taught children the first song that he heard. It turned out this official worked in the palace and therefore was able to recognize the emperor on sight. The official was more than surprised to be in the presence of the emperor. It seemed so odd. Why was the emperor wearing plain clothes? Where was the emperor's usual entourage? Where were the imperial guards? The official was puzzled, to say the least. Emperor Yao told the official about the song he heard from the children. And then he asked, "Did you write this song that you taught them?" The official answered, "No, Your Majesty. It is an ancient poem." Emperor Yao was disappointed to hear this. Why? Because he was hoping to hear that the song was current. The song was something that was widespread among the people and represented the popular sentiment. If it was ancient, then the praise implied in the song was not for him, but for one of his predecessors long ago. At this point, he felt that his investigation was at an end, so he decided that he should return to the palace. He left the official more puzzled than ever about the visit. Later on, the emperor reflected on his experience venturing outside the palace and felt he was not really closer to the answer than he was before. There seemed to be some people who supported him, but there also seemed to be some who did not support him. So how could he tell if he was ruling in accordance with the Tao? So thinking over this, he decided he should visit his mentor, the scholar who taught him in his younger years. The next day, when he arrived at his mentor's home, he saw another visitor there, an elder who possessed an aura of dignified wisdom. The emperor's mentor introduced the elder to him. He said, "Your Majesty, this is the sage that I mentioned to you previously. Emperor Yao bowed to the elder respectfully. He said, "Master, years ago, after hearing about you from my teacher, I visited your home. Unfortunately, you were away at the time, so I never got to see you. Today, I am truly fortunate to finally meet you in person. The friend of my teacher is my teacher as well. Therefore, please accept my greeting to you as your student." The three of them sat down to chat over tea. The mentor asked the emperor if there was a specific purpose for the visit. So Emperor Yao related the question on his mind. Am I doing the ruling properly? And he recounted what he had observed for himself. He talked about the song that he heard from the children. He talked about the song he heard from the old man. He talked about everything. When he was done, the elderly sage remarked, "This is truly what is described as the ruler of ideal virtue and the society of ideal governance." Emperor Yao was glad to hear this, but was not quite understanding. So he asked, "How so, master?" The elderly sage said, "We, all of us, we live our entire lives under the sky and above the ground. So who among us has not received the kindness of heaven and earth? We all have. At the same time, who among us knows to thank heaven and earth for the kindness we have received? Few or none. This is because the virtue of the ruler is much like the virtue of the world. Nature will nurture the myriad things silently. Therefore, a virtuous emperor would nurture his subjects the same way. He guides everyone in following the great Tao, walking along the path so naturally that most are not aware of his guidance. Furthermore, when we take actions, our goal is to be helpful. It is not to become well known. One who seeks recognition and fame will try to do everything himself in order to monopolize all the attention. Why should you emulate such a despicable person, Your Majesty? Understanding dawned on the emperor. He was assuming that doing a good job meant recognition. He was looking for external signs of support from the people to validate his rule. Now, he realized that the ideal governance of the Tao would actually be seamless, so the people would not be fully aware of it. This meant the things he observed were actually positive signs. The people lived the good life, but felt it was their own doing. They gave credit not to him, but to themselves. That was exactly the way it should be in the Wu Wei governance of the Tao. The end. That was the story of Emperor Yao. Now, let's analyze and discuss the story. What is the Tao of this story? First, I mentioned that this was from a long, long time ago, considerably more ancient than the time of Lao Tzu. Emperor Yao lived about 4,300 years ago. This meant that he predated Lao Tzu by about 1,800 years, 18 centuries. Emperor Yao was one of the 5 legendary emperors. His reign was often cited as an example for future rulers to follow. So at the time that he ruled, he already was aware of the Tao and Wu Wei, even though it's 18 centuries before Lao Tzu. This was because Lao Tzu never was the founder or originator of Tao concepts. He was a summarizer, summarizing concepts that had been around literally for thousands of years. And it makes sense that it would be the concept that he summarizes because it went back even before the time of Emperor Yao by at least another 500 years, at the very least, but probably much longer. It is because of that when Lao Tzu wrote Tao Te Ching in chapter 17, a chapter that we'll visit in the future, we see these lines. The highest rulers, people do not know they have them. The next level, people love them and praise them. The next level, people fear them. The next level, people despise them. Now, from a conventional perspective, we look at great rulers, we usually think of line 2, the next level. The leader, the ruler, the king, etc., that people love and praise. Lao Tzu says, no, there's another level above that. The ruler that work in seamless ways so people don't even realize. Indeed, later on in chapter 17, Lao Tzu writes at the very end of the chapter, proceeding calmly, valuing their words, task completed, matters settled, the people all say, we did it naturally. The people under the highest ruler are under the impression that they did it themselves, that they themselves should take the credit. And that's because the ruler knows how to act in the Wu Wei fashion. So let's look back at the story. We saw that with the first song, Emperor Yao assumed that it was about him. Later on, he discovered that it was actually about some older emperor from ancient times, ancient to him. Now, the man in the crowd praised his governance, and then the old man disagreed. So the elderly sage, in discussing this matter, was pointing out that this was similar to people being unaware of the Tao or the working of nature, just taking it for granted. That's what happens, not just human beings, but myriad things in general. Myriad things take the environment in which they live for granted. The old man took the safety and security, the peace and prosperity that the emperor established for granted. So Emperor Yao, that's why he was on the right track, emulating the Tao, shaping a Tao-centric society whose benefits to the people would last. So there's more. How do we apply this to ourselves? How do we learn the wisdom of the story and use it for our own lives. So this chapter gives us specific ways to do that. So Lao Tzu has provided the advice that we need to balance out the spiritual with the material. Because most of us tend to have a heavily material perspective, this really means that we should decrease materialistic desires, decrease materialistic tendencies like for glory, for treasures, goods, ambitions, and increase the spiritual dimension of our lives like humility, integrity, character. So these are all included in this particular chapter. It brings us back from being too materialistic to the point of equilibrium, as you saw in the scale. That's number one, taking the advice from Lao Tzu. Number two, we can learn from the emperor's story. We don't need to do as he did, going out to figure out what people thought. We can look within to find the Tao. So another way to say it is, as you see here, let go of the need to seek external validation. Number three, still drawing from the story, if the people are unaware of what you have done, that is Wu Wei. It means, like the emperor, you are on the right track. Now, let me be very clear with this item here. It doesn't mean you have to hide what you do. It only means you let the right actions flow naturally, the same way that nature acts to benefit myriad things. If we have acted in this seamless way, like the Tao or nature itself, then only the truly perceptive people will know. All of the above takes us back to the most important point of this chapter, Wu Wei. When we practice the teaching of Wu Wei, we too will know not just what we have accomplished, but also what it means to be the ruler of ideal virtue and the society of ideal governance. That translates to us living the ideal life. And the last two lines from this chapter, as you see there at the bottom, act without contrivance, and nothing will be beyond control. So in 2 lines, Lao Tzu summarized everything that I have just said. It is all about the wise governance of Wu Wei. Our meeting has come to an end, but the journey continues on. Until next time, may the Tao fill you with peace and happiness.